Have you ever wondered if heaven is for real? Well, after a brush with death, a young boy may have the answers millions of us are looking for. Was his vision real or something he dreamed? Well, you can decide for yourself. Natalie Tisdale tells us why people are so interested in this little boy from Nebraska.
I remember Jesus. There are streets of gold and a lot of colors. I sat in Jesus' lap and then I felt just safe.
It sounded like a story dreamed up by a little boy, but to understand what Colton Burpo said, you have to hear what he did. It all started on a trip to Colorado. Colton complained of a stomach ache, a trip to the doctor, diagnosis, the flu. Back home to Nebraska, another doctor, still no improvement. Colton went downhill fast.
As parents, we felt sick. You know, we could have done different. Man, we did this wrong.
Turns out for 5 days he suffered misdiagnosed. The then 3-year-old had a ruptured appendix. While in surgery, his parents, Todd and Sonia, prayed in separate rooms. They thought they had lost him. Miraculously, after a difficult recovery, Colton survived. But his story is far from over. There were things Colton did and things he said after the surgery that were out of the ordinary. But until a drive past the hospital 4 months after his surgery, none of it made sense. His dad jokingly asked Colton if he wanted to go back to the hospital. His response?
But you know, Dad, and he looks at me in the mirror and I'm looking at him. He says, the angels, they sang to me while I was there. I remember looking in the mirror and he's just dead serious.
Colton's story about heaven was about to begin.
And I look at my wife and she looks at me and it's like, has he spoken to you? She's like, no. Her eyes are probably as big as mine and I'm sitting here going, he's never talked to me about angels before.
While in heaven, Colton says he saw many things and met many people, including Pop, his great-grandfather who died 30 years before Colton was born. But Colton says he didn't look like the photo in his house. A picture sent months later by his grandmother was more like the man he met, a young man without glasses. And perhaps the most shocking part of Colton's story.
Stands right in front of his mom and is like, Mom, I have 2 sisters.
But he only has one sister.
You had a baby die in your tummy, didn't you, Mom?
His parents never told him about the miscarriage.
She looked familiar and then she started giving me hugs and telling me that she was glad to have someone from her family up there.
Over time, this young man's visions became more real, from his description of Jesus to his talks with God, even a discussion about Armageddon.
I actually got a glimpse of it.
Now, how does a kid make that up?
The Burpo family accepted and embraced their little boy's unbelievable story.
Todd Burpo is a pastor here in Imperial, Nebraska, population 1,800. Many people here know about Colton's story. In fact, they've encouraged Todd to write a book about it. He did. Here it is. It's a New York Times bestseller.
It wasn't something Todd wanted to do or even knew how to do, but he did exactly what he did the night Colton laid on that table near death. He prayed.
God, if this is really you, I kind of laid my fleece out and I said, you know, I don't know how to publish a book, but if you really want me to do this, you're going to have the publishing industry find me.
And it wasn't long before that actually happened. So far, 500,000 books have been printed. Bookstores across the country are trying to get more copies. They're on ebook readers, audio tape. There's even talk of a movie. It's a lot for this small-town family.
We never imagined it to go where it is.
There's a peace I've come to know.
As for Colton, he's a pretty straightforward 11-year-old. He likes music, he wrestles, and he prays to the God he describes as
God. He's the biggest one in heaven. He can hold the earth in his hands.
I don't know why God picked us. We're just normal people, but God did a remarkable miracle for us.
Natalie Tisdale, Fox 31 News.
Wow.
So, what do you think?
You know what? I think that little kids can't make up some things.
I'll tell you what. I believe it for one reason. This is the latest in a long line of stories I've heard, starting with my own mother, who had a near-death experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And said to me when I was a little kid basically the same thing. And I've heard many stories like that.
It's amazing.
Who are we to say it's...
No, Absolutely. And I want to hear more from the little boy.
That's a fascinating story.
Have to get the book. That is a great story.
Ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise.